Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to another IELTS writing video. This time we'll be looking at the area of register. Now, the word register has a few different meanings in English, but the one we'll be focusing on today is the one that means the style of language, grammar, and words used for particular situations. Now, the particular situation we'll be looking at today is letter writing. And the reason we're going to do this is because letter writing is the only task type that you will be presented with if you are doing the general training of the IELTS writing exam. Now, if you're doing the academic IELTS, it's probably worth sticking around for this anyway, as you'll never know when you'll need to write a formal email in English in your everyday life. So, as I say, it's worth sticking around for these useful phrases that you can use. Now, just to let you know, this will be the only general training video that I include in this writing course. Because the rest of the lessons dedicated to writing task 1 will involve academic task types, because there are many that you can be presented with. But this one will be focusing on letter writing, so without further ado, let's get into it, and I will share my screen with you now. Okay, so as you can see from the screen in front of me, there are a lot of set phrases that are used in formal writing. And as I say, in this lesson, we're going to be looking at formal writing conventions in particular, because this is going to be the type of writing that's probably the most difficult for students. Now, there's a lot of information here, but don't worry, I'll break it down accordingly. So now this first part, if you're doing the general training, you might not need to worry about this so much, because usually they just tell you how to start the email. They say use dear and then the name, okay? But it's worth looking at a few different options, because there are a few. Number one is if you know the name. If you know the name, you begin with dear. Now you can just write a first name like Dear James and then a comma. But if you're going to write the full name or last name, you need a title before it. So for a man, you would write Mr. So Dear Mr. Jones, for example. For a woman who's married, you would write MRS, which is pronounced Mrs. Okay. For a single or young female, you would say Miss. And then finally, if you don't know if the woman is single, young, married, or whatever, you would just say Ms. Okay, so it's spelled MS, but it's pronounced Ms. Okay, but make sure you write it like this. And then you would follow that with the full name or the last name. So, for example, Dear Mr. Jones or Dear Mr. Jack Jones, for example. Right, the other two options are if you don't know the name. Okay, so number one would be Dear Sir or Madam. Now, this is taken from French, but it's pronounced differently. So we don't spell it with an E at the end, and you stress the first syllable, not the second. So it is pronounced madam, and then you have a comma at the end. Also, there is another way to address someone if you don't know their name. And this is usually if you're writing to a company or something like that. And it's the one I always use just in my personal life, and it's to whom it may concern. So these are some of the different ways you can start your email. Make sure you leave a space underneath this before you begin your email, okay? And only make sure that you use one of them, okay? Don't use more than one. And on the general training, if they specifically tell you to just use one example, only use that. Don't change it, okay? Because that's part of your task response or achievement. Okay. So I want you to imagine that maybe you've got a letter where you have to write an email to someone or a company applying for a job. You've seen a job and now you would like to apply for it. Actually, I've written that over here. There's a difference in prepositions. You apply for a position or a place, okay? Like a place at a university. Or you say apply to, and that's applying to a company or the university in particular. So just remember that difference between the two prepositions there. But either way, when you start an email, it is very important in English that you start with your purpose. So you don't need any long introductions. You just need to state, firstly, why you are writing. So let's say you do want to apply for this job, or you have to do it in your exam. Well, first of all, it's very good to start off with I am writing and not to use a contraction in a formal email. So try to avoid I'm and don't and doesn't. Spell it out properly. So use both words, I am, not I'm. Okay. Now, there's a few ways you can continue with this. So in the first line, I've written to inquire. Now, you can use any infinitive. You can say, I am writing to complain, I am writing to request, or I am writing to inquire, which is a more formal way of saying ask. You still need the preposition about, but then you can finish the sentence accordingly. So, I am writing to inquire about the recent job advertisement posted on your website. This would be a great way to start that letter in a formal way. Now, there are other ways to do this. You might not need, or you might not want to start it with a verb. You might want to start it by representing someone. Now, you won't normally have to do this in an IELTS exam, but if you do want to represent another person or company, you would say on behalf of. So I am writing on behalf of this person or this company about something. And finally, and you probably will need this in the exam, if you want a more formal way of saying about, you just say, I am writing with regard to. And that's a very good way of saying about in a formal way. So I'm writing with regard to a recent telephone conversation we had or whatever it might be. Now, after that, you get into your body, and I can't give too many I can't give too much advice here. It depends on the question. But other set phrases or useful phrases that we use in English are as follows. So if you need or require is more formal than need, any further information, do not hesitate to contact me. Don't wait to ask me is what that means. And that's a very common set phrase towards the end of an email. Another one that's very common towards the end of an email is I look forward to, meaning I am happy about or I'm excited about. Now, a very common mistake that students make is they think that this to is part of an infinitive. So they would say, I look forward to meet you, or I look forward to see you. Whereas actually, I look forward to is a set phrase, meaning that to is a preposition. And after prepositions, if you use a verb, you need the ing form. So it would be, I look forward to meeting you or seeing you or hearing from you. You need from with hearing. But if you don't want to use a verb, you can just say, I look forward to your reply or your response. Okay? Now, at the end of an email, and this is why I mentioned all of this before, there are some differences if you know the name or if you don't know the name. So, for example, if you know the name, you should write yours sincerely in a formal way, okay? So yours sincerely, then leave a line, and then your name. If you don't know the name, so if you said, dear sir or madam, or to whom it may concern, you would write yours faithfully. And it's good to know that one when you're writing an email. But if you just want a generic one that's semi-formal, go with best regards, capital B, small r. And that is it for my useful phrases and letter writing conventions. Now, just remember that when you actually take the exam, it's not going to tell you how formal your letter needs to be. So this is a decision you will have to make for yourself. Now, in this lesson, we have covered formal letter writing phrases, and this will be very useful if you need to write a formal letter to your boss or a letter applying for a job, as we have just looked at. However, if you have to write a letter to a friend or even a neighbor, perhaps, this letter is going to need to be more informal. So make sure that you study the question carefully and that you respond in the appropriate way. Otherwise, that's all from me. Thank you very much again, everybody. If you have bought my course and you're doing this on my website, as always, scroll down to continue with the exercises, and I look forward to seeing your work in the interactive task below. If you haven't bought my course, please consider doing so, and you'll see the details for that either in the description below or elsewhere on my website. Otherwise, thank you very much, everybody, and I hope to see you in another video very soon.